We're here today in PwC London at the Digital Leadership Forum. I'm here with Jeremy Waite from IBM.
Thanks for having me. My name is Jeremy Waite. I'm the Chief Customer Officer at IBM. It's a really fun role. I have the pleasure of going in boardrooms and trying to explain complicated technologies and where those are likely to go in the future to executives. Spend most of my time talking about AI, but obviously within all of that you've got quantum and analytics and blockchain and different types of emerging technologies coming through. So just helping people make sense of technology. Basically, I'm a storyteller.
You've just given us some great examples in the presentation we've just had to the members, and one of the first ones you brought up was about mergers and acquisitions and the complexity around that and how IBM Watson can help the decision making.
Watson, show me companies with revenue between $25 million and $60 million pertaining to analytics.
Let's see what I can find.
So the example that we saw with TJ Watson Labs is really just having a system that can process vast amounts of information very, very quickly in order to help you make a decision better. So something like Watson can process 500 gig a second. It's equivalent to reading about 1 million books every second. When you can start to make sense of all of that data to make an informed decision, things start to get really interesting. Now, especially when there's complicated decisions that humans don't have access to all the data, because a human just can't read fast enough, or they can't stay up to date fast enough. So what we saw with the TJ Watson example was absolutely real, and it was two IBMers that were role-playing, these mergers and acquisitions consultants, to help make a decision about what company to buy next. Watson was basically crunching all of that data very quickly and then making a recommendation for what they should do next in order to help the humans do their jobs better. And then obviously once it's presented the data, it's up to the human to then make the ultimate decision about whether or not they agree with it or not, but at least they're more informed.
Some people think that artificial intelligence is a problem for the future or something in their workplace they have to worry about in a few years' time, but it feels like it's a very current thing we need to be working on.
Yeah, and the thing is, with the examples that we showed today, they're all live examples. These aren't, proof of concept stuff for a stage or something you read about in Fast Company or Wired that we might see in the future. These are absolutely real technologies that businesses could use today. It's just that they've not often found a home. People just don't realize that this stuff is available today. Yet they go back to their offices surrounded by people who are completely overwhelmed. I think one of the stats we shared was that 4 out of 5 executives currently feel overwhelmed and underprepared for the challenges their business is going to face over the next 5 years. A technology like this is really just helping put people back in control of their business, and then they go and figure out the application of that. And that's where you need a lot of smart people and teams and partners to help you figure out how is that going to help me do a job better and not just be a distraction of buying a new shiny technology for the sake of it.
Yeah, because one thing you mentioned, was it narrow AI? So just taking one task rather than kind of taking the whole picture of it?
Yeah, and that's, that's why we need some education, because when you throw around a term like artificial intelligence, everybody's got a view, usually a very emotional one, about what that means, and a lot of that might have been informed by a science fiction movie. We don't actually use the phrase artificial intelligence very much at IBM. We often talk about augmented intelligence, which is really just trying to augment human behavior with a system to help people do their jobs faster. There's really 3 very simple forms of AI. You've got a narrow AI, a general AI, and a super AI. And the super AI is your Terminator 2 stuff that might happen in, or if at all, in the future. Then you have the general AI, which is where the Turing test comes into play, or when will a computer be able to interact with you across multiple tasks as good as a human. But 99% of every AI use case that you see that's genuinely AI is a narrow AI, which is usually one command helping you do one thing really fast. And that's really the challenging part of this. It's how do you plug all these little narrow AIs together in order to try and achieve something quicker than you would before for a very sensible cost. And then, most importantly, obviously, putting the right people behind it to train it.
An example you showed as well was the Wimbledon team.
Wimbledon is really wanting to be a broadcaster alongside the ESPNs and BBCs and Skies and Fox Sports, but with a small team and a limited budget, that's really hard. So once you start bringing in some of the relatively basic, now they've been refined over time to do some incredibly smart things, but they're very simple AIs with things like visual image tagging and tone analyzer and sentiment analytics, understanding the crowd noise and being able to automatically make all of these video highlights on their own. they're actually very, very simple, and you start piecing these things together, and then it frees up this small team to go and focus in lots of other areas doing work that really matters. But because of the scale of the system, now Wimbledon's able to compete with a very small team against companies, much, much bigger than they are. And that's a really optimistic view, whether you're a startup trying to compete with a big guy, whether you're a small team in a large organization wanting to scale. That's where AI or an IA can help you. Some of you, I'm sure, have seen Moneyball, and you start taking all of these vast amounts of data, trying to reduce it down to simple numbers that everyone can understand, just trying to find value and little insights that maybe a human might have missed. So the fact that we've trained Watson to be able to understand tennis means that you could look at the narrative or the way that a game plays out, and then you could make assumptions. If you go on wimbledon.com, click on any of the games, look on the scores, and you'll see something called Slam Tracker. And what Slam Tracker is Watson saying, these are the things that the player must do in order to win this game. 3 out of 5 times, he needs to return a second serve to the backhand at 63 kilometers an hour. And that's really just taking lots of data to provide an insight to help the player to be better when they play that opponent. Now that could be how teams engage with each other. That could be understanding through an acquisition how different cultures might fit together. And that's where you have a creative use of all of these little AI applications. My favorite phrase that we mentioned today was from Seth Godin. I think we might have opened with it. If you wait until there's a case study in your industry, you waited too long. So I love that. And we've got just the most incredible research team who are very, very well funded, and they register about a patent every single hour. And out of these research teams come things like Project Debater.
Project Debater, let's hear your rebuttal speech.
Thank you. Allow me to respond to some of my opponent's most recent claims.
And this application we thought would be the most fun way of trying to showcase an AI, Watson, that can understand natural language processing. And what better way than in a debate, when you've got a very nuanced argument, you've got all the fors and the pros and the cons and and there's lots of different views and there's no right answer. That could be an executive trying to make a decision about something. So the use cases that we talk about in Project Debater are how you could get a system to debate like a human in real time, using natural language and sarcasm and humor and mirroring back the same tone and words and sentiment in order to make a compelling argument, which for the fun side, we're pitting against the world's top debater just to see, can we have a debate around a topic? But the more interesting part is that there's not years worth of machine learning. Some of the topics we've tested, we only knew 15 minutes in advance. We ran it at CES, the big Consumer Electronics Show in Vegas. We ran it in San Francisco for Think, which is our big annual conference. We did lose the argument, but when we asked the audience, did you feel more informed? Because we gave you all the data, because of course Project Debater's got access to all the data, could even correct the speaker about, no, that number's wrong, it's actually this and this. So the challenge isn't giving all the data in one point, the challenge is having enough empathy to tell a compelling story that wins over the hearts and minds as well as the brain, right? So that's where, we make decisions with our hearts, we justify them with our heads. Debating is as much an emotional sport as it is a scientific or intelligent one. And that's where computers live really in the best part with like Watson, this intersection of humanity and technology, where you combine the best of both. A good human plus a machine is the best combination.
How do you see like the next 6 months, maybe a year? What do you see? What might our members find insightful?
I think all we're going to see is more people talking about this. We're going to see a lot of the myths being dispelled. There's going to be less scaremongering. You're going to see less presentations starting off with Ex Machina and Terminator. You're going to be seeing much more practical, quite basic use cases, whether that's HR to retain or acquire talent, whether it's going to be helping marketers be able to sell things faster, especially when you might not have people's personal data, faster decisions in healthcare, and it's going to transition probably over the next 18 months into more of, oh wow, this could genuinely impact my business in a good way.
Yeah, you mentioned an IBM page that people can go and have a look at and learn more about this.
Research.ibm.com is where you see a lot of our sexy stuff. It goes deep into the weeds very, very quickly. That's our research teams. If you just search IBM Watson or just go ibm.com/Watson, there's a whole load of different use cases that you can see there that we've played with, and you can pick your industry or a specific task and you could see a live demo. I think a good place to start might be ibm.biz/Watson Masterclass. You do a little course and it's going to leave you more informed to go and impress your friends.
Hope you have a look at that. Well, thanks so much for your time. Appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.